Okay, so that's everything about tables. Okay, let's go to figures. As I said, figures tend to be a little bit more complicated, but you're gonna learn that the bare bones of figures are actually very simple. What tends to be complicated is when you want to make changes to those basic structures, because you want to control what colors you want to have, what kind of something that is called geometric objects you want in the figure. Geometric objects are, for instance, if you want lines, if you want points, if you want stars, or whatever you want. So all those little things create complications because you want to make the figure more and more beautiful, but of course it requires more technical knowledge of functions and structures, and you can miss like any particular thing like that anytime, and that can be a problem. Okay, but I don't want to scare you. Let's go to the simple. Learn the bare bones. So the bare bones are very simple. So again, I have this object that I'm gonna call plot, because that's what I want to, the way I want to be very precise with the terms. But you can call it however you want. You can call it chart, you can call it figure one, you can call it, I don't know, whatever. And you have this other object that is your dataset, the dataset that you're using. You have your variables, and something that is very important in this syntax, the basic syntax used, for instance, to prepare a bar graph. This function called ggplot is the main function of ggplot, and is used to create the ggplot object. So it's critical to always use that function. This second function, AES, is also critical because you use it to say which variables you're going to have. In this case, you only have one variable. For that reason, it's called x, but you can have x, y, z, and so on and so forth. I don't know how many variables you can put in just a single plot, but with two, actually you have a lot of fun. Three is too many. Okay. And the third function that you need to keep in mind is this geom, and like a 3 points, because you can have many different ways to call this geom, but this is basically the kind of plot that you want to prepare. In this case, it's going to be a bar graph, so it's geom bar, but you can have a geom histogram, geom line, geom scatter plot, geom jitter. You can have geom map. You can have hundreds. I think there are probably 20 different kind of plots that you can create, and probably much more. Okay, but that's the very simple thing. So very simple. You need to have the ggplot. You need to call the dataset. You need to specify which variables you want to have in your plot, and you need to use the correct function. In this case, for instance, if I want to create a bar graph, it needs to be geom bar. Okay, very simple. Let's go to an example. So I'm gonna use again the variable family income that you are already related with it. So I'm gonna create an object called plot one, because I'm gonna prepare more plots, and I'm gonna use the function ggplot, and I'm gonna call my data, and this data is gonna be CCES 2018. What else? AS, and X is gonna be, it's gonna be Femming. Let me copy. It's gonna be Femming new. What else? Done. So you have that, and look that you need to have all of these elements. If you don't have all those elements, let me show you. So imagine that I just have this. I go to plots, and you don't have anything here because this doesn't produce anything. Okay, you have the levels of a variable, but you haven't prepared or you haven't used the correct instructions to produce the plot. Okay, yes, just to show you. Okay, so something that is interesting that you can use here is this operator plus, and with the operator plus, what you are saying is to our like do this, and in addition do the following things, right? Okay, so what can you do? You create here, you use the geom bar, and I want just to run this to show you how this looks. So now look, it's kind of nice, right? It's a beautiful bar graph that you have here with the values of family income. I think you actually have even 16 the category 16, which might be Bill Gates and the richer people in the United States. And you can see that the mode here, the mean is here, we saw that it's in the 6th level, but the mode is actually 4, which is very interesting. So this is not a it's not a perfectly normally distributed, tends to be normal, but not really, not completely normal distributed. It's just to show you how beautiful is this thing of plotting the figures. Okay, so that's the thing. This is nice, right? But you don't have the correct name, so you can do some aesthetic improvements. And the first one is use this function called xlab and xy. So you create xlab, and you want to say that in the x-axis you're gonna have the variable family income, and you use the plus operator, and you have in the y-axis you're gonna have a count, because this is a univariate. Let's see how it changes. That's nice. It's so much better. And a final thing that I'm gonna teach you how to do, you can do many things, as I said. You can change the colors, so on and so forth, but I'm not gonna teach you that right now. You're gonna see it in the readings, and you're gonna learn it in the next class, okay? But something that is cool is to change the theme of the bar. There are, like you can see here, there are many themes that you can use. Explore those themes and find the theme that you like more. I think this is nice. This is a nice theme. I like it. Look at that beautiful plot, right? And now that I have a beautiful plot, I'm gonna create plot number 1. Okay. Okay, guys. So this is how you prepare this plot. Let me show you how to export it. It's very similar. Use export, later save as image, and later, I think with this size is fine for you guys, and save it. Okay? I didn't change the name actually, but it's gonna be in my working directory that is here. Look at here, this beautiful, it's so beautiful. I really like how R prepares, and especially ggplot prepares figures. It's very nice. Okay, so that's how to prepare the bar graph. Now we're gonna use another dataset. We're gonna use the Gapminder dataset. And so let's go here. So we learned how to prepare bar graphs. Now we're gonna learn how to prepare histograms. The histogram is basically the same. The only change is that you're gonna have here this function, histogram. Okay? So let's copy this here. But I'm gonna change the dataset. I'm gonna use here the Gapminder dataset. Let me show you the Gapminder a little bit. The Gapminder is a very interesting cross-national dataset on inequality in all the countries in the world. And you can find here interesting variables such as infant mortality, life expectancy, fertility, population, GDP, the continent, and the region of the country, and the year. It goes from 1960 to 2016, I guess. So it's a very comprehensive data set. You can use it for interesting things. It is better if you create a new version of that data set without missing values. The missing values sometimes create problems, so I want to avoid those problems here. So, and I also want to reinforce the idea of how to omit, how to eliminate or clean the data set that has missing values. Okay, so I'm gonna use here GG, and the variable that I want to show here is fertility. And here I need to change this because it's gonna be histogram. And I'm gonna change this for fertility. Look at this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful table, right? I'm gonna create this as a plot two. Plot two. Okay. Something that is interesting about this plot is that, of course, it's not perfectly symmetrical. So what you have here is what is called bimodal kind of distribution. So you have one mode here and you have another mode here. And sometimes that tells us that there are two populations in this distribution. Probably what you have here is like a distribution for developing countries and a distribution for rich countries. Probably this one is the distribution for the developing countries, because in the developing countries people tend to have more kids and these kind of things, and this is probably the distribution for developed countries, but I don't know. I'm just guessing. Okay, and now I'm gonna show you the third example. So we learned how to prepare histograms. Now learn how to prepare. Oh, I should change here. Sorry. I'm gonna teach you how to prepare density plots. Just change the name of that title. And it's basically the same. You just need to change this function. That's all. Plot number 3, and my plot number 3 is gonna be the same data set, but I'm gonna change. Okay, I'm gonna show you something cool. GDP here is gonna be GDP. Okay. And this one is gonna be density. Okay. Sorry, I need to, because I created the object. Actually, okay. Look at this ugly, ugly figure, but it's not because of the like of R of the package. It's because of the distribution of the GDP. So basically, what you have here is that for all the years in this data set, most of countries have very low levels of GDP, and very few countries have high levels of GDP. So in order to change that, or not to change, like to improve the way that you display this information, you can log the GDP. That's like a kind of mathematical trick. But later we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But let me just show you this interesting trick. So you create a new variable called log GDP, which takes is basically a function here, log, and it's gonna be the log of the variable GDP. Okay. Created, and now I'm gonna create a new version of this plot number 3. It's gonna be so much better. So it's gonna be log GDP. And here you need to write that this is log GDP. Okay. And let's see that log GDP. Oh, look at this. So it is magic. Like magically you see that this is normally distributed. Okay. But it's normally distributed the log of the GDP, not the actual GDP. That's you use that trick when you have very right skew distributions in which like you have very few cases that have like extreme or outlier values. So you do that in order to have a more normally distributed or normally distributed distribution. Okay. So that's all, guys. That's all for today. It was a little bit more, but because I wanted to walk you through each step. And you keep asking me, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm trying to give you all the pieces of information that you need to have in order to perform these tasks. But what you need to do is to try to adjust the structures, the commands that I have for the particular assignments. I cannot just ask you to do something and do it for you because it doesn't make any sense. I want to force you to process these things and to try to adjust them. And I really appreciate a lot the effort and the process to do that, not necessarily just the outcomes. And you have seen in the labs that I am paying attention to the processes. I really like when people figure out how to do it one way or another, or even when they don't do it perfectly, but they say, okay, I try to do this and maybe this works. I don't know. What I don't like is just like a don't freak out, don't get like, oh, I don't know how to do this. I know it's going to be difficult a little bit, but at the same time, it's very technical. When you learn a little bit this language, is going to be okay. It's kind of simple. What I'm going to ask you for this assignment, probably I'm going to ask you to use this data set and to create a table and create a figure, one of the figures or one of the tables that I taught you how to prepare, and you need to export them. I'm going to give you the opportunity for 1 or 2 extra points. Okay? That's all, guys. Thank you so much. A final thing that I want to tell you is that keep in mind that the bar graphs are supposed to be used with categorical variables, and histograms and density plots are supposed to be used with numeric variables. Okay? Otherwise, the outcomes will not be like aesthetic, will not make any sense at the same time. Okay? That's all. If you have questions, of course, write those questions to me. Keep writing me emails. I try to respond to all the emails. Sometimes I respond collectively because sometimes I can go one by one, but sometimes I need to do it collectively because if I can have the same question everywhere. Okay, that's all, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.